So on one of our nursery crawls this past summer, my wife and I, it was late summer already, my wife and I walked around looking for things on sale, and Portulacaria afras were on a 2 for sale. So, and there were a lot of them, so I was able to pick out 2 that I really liked. And they've just been sitting in my greenhouse. I haven't done anything with them. Kind of dry, but I've been watering them. Just for reference, I'll come in close with my hand there. That's a pretty nice trunk with some really nice taper and some branches already starting. And if I were going to try to have a Portulacaria afra forest someday, oops, it's ready to come out of the pot. If I were going to have a Portulacaria afra forest someday, I wouldn't mind if they were all clones of these trees. Even the branches have sub-branching happening. So I think I can get a nice bit of stock from these 2 ports. Obviously, I'm trying to create a landscape in the future. I hope I live long enough to do all these things I want to do. All right, let's get started. I'm not sure which one I'm going to pick first, but I'm going to give them a look around and then we'll start videoing. Now, before I get started on that, I want to, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah. I want to water these, and I'll do it. That's how I get my rainwater. I have jugs of it in the greenhouse. It's a little cool, but it should be ambient temperature. I'm going to dip these, not so that the root ball falls apart, but they're very dry. And I'm going to be doing some pruning up above, and it would be nice if they stayed together. And I'm going to have it up out of the pot, working on it like this. I just want this to be a little more moist. Right now it's as dry as a bone, so it will float right now. So I'm going to feel it pulling down, which means it's absorbing water. I'm pushing it down now. And I'll be able to feel the buoyancy equal out as the water gets absorbed. I think these could use a deep watering actually. And I'm going to be raking out these roots. So I want them to soak a little bit. All right, so that's natural buoyancy right there. So I would say it's almost waterlogged to the extent that I want it to be waterlogged. And I'm going to let it sit in a puddle of itself on a tray just below this. That should stay moist. And get the other one going. This one's a little straighter, so I think I could just let it. I'll let it be for a little bit. All right, it is maintaining neutral buoyancy now. Look at those beautiful roots. All right, let me decide how I'm going to rake these out. And I'm shooting this at an awkward angle. I'll try to keep that in mind as I'm working through this. I don't want to block what I'm showing. I'm just starting by gently raking out the top part of the soil. I'm not even encountering, oh now I am, I hadn't encountered any roots up high. And this is still pretty dry, which is good for what I'm doing. But there should be enough moisture. I'll try not to tear any roots until I can examine them. There's a fair amount down at the bottom, and I'm sure these were cuttings. So who knows what we've got as a root base here. I'm starting to think that I'm going to have to soak off all of this. It's got an interesting slant to it. So as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about what I could possibly do with this, which would be the main tree in a planting, one of the main trees in the planting. Yeah, I'm going to soak off the rest. Let me start working on the other one. I want to make sure I'm working in the area that you can best see this. Producing videos is something I never thought I would do in my lifetime. And I just heard from one of the people that I watch that he's busy learning some new editing software. That's why he's not up to date on videos. And I don't know, it was hard enough to learn the software that I'm using. What I like about the software I'm using is it had, you know, free music, free sound effects, probably a lot of other stuff that I haven't even begun to use yet. It was pretty highly rated. So if you're getting into this, I can recommend the software that I'm using, which is LumaFusion. It was free. I'm sorry, no, it wasn't free. I opted for a one-time fee, which was not bad, and then no subscription fees after that. And I'm sure, I mean, I would absolutely love to have more slick video content, but it's hard enough to just keep up with what I've got. And I seem to only know how to produce one style of video, which I hope no one's getting bored with. I really would like to know what you think. If you have suggestions, just put them in the comments. I read all the comments and I try to reply. Even the silly ones my sister puts in. I'm sure there's some root flare down there somewhere. And I'm going to get these washed off. And I'll be right back. All right, I got the roots all washed off, and I've tried to find a radial root base, and I think I can uncover one. These two roots, this one and this one, are on a good plane. I just have to redirect them. I'm going to reduce the root base down below, you know, the bottom of the cutting, if you will, and just work from there. All right. Wish me luck. I'm just going in here and taking a big chunk right now. There's a lot of soil. And not much else. I might not take more off than that right now. Let me wash it off a little bit more. If there's a little bit more, I will take off. And maybe I'll do it a little more delicately. Hope you can see this. A piece going down here. A root there. And I learned everything I know about doing this, because I don't have that much experience with it, from my fellow YouTubers out there, which are too numerous to mention, because I watch so many. But if you're getting anything from me, I do appreciate it. Standing on the shoulders of quite a few that have come before me. All right, I'm going to take this high one right off here. It has a lot attached to it. It's a little too high up. There's one next to it that's also a little high. There's a root bud here that's way too high. I'm going to take that off. That would have been a nice root. All right, let's see what I'm left with. It sits pretty flat. I can probably take a little bit more off down here, or maybe I'll do it at a later date. I am squeamish about root work. I'm sure a lot of you are. This is not for the faint of heart. We're looking for roots that are radial to this root base, and we're going to expose more and more of it over the years. I think there's more I can take off on this side. There's going to be a bit of a one-sided root base, but I think that'll be okay in the end. And this is going to be a forest, and this big trunk is going to be one of my main trees. So I want a nice root base. Okay, that's good. That's good. I'm going to stop there. I will arrange those roots. But certainly before I do, I'm going to make some cuts up above. These are going to be arbitrary at first. And let me do the root base of the other tree. This one's a little tougher. Gotta watch where I'm throwing the pieces of the root. This one's a little tougher. I'm gonna have to really regrow roots on this side, and the tree is going to be leaning. Maybe I can leave some of those and just cut the lower parts, or the parts that go straight down, and hope something else develops. There's a very thick root here, right here. And there's one above it that crosses it. Both of these are very thick. So I think I'm gonna have to take them down pretty far. That one. And this one. And these have a lot of the fibrous roots. There's still quite a few. There are some very small roots at the correct root plane, and I'll try and keep all of those. A little ugly down there. If you see, there's some nice roots here. This big one, I think, starts out nice. No, it doesn't. It goes off radial. I should get rid of that one altogether. I don't relish the idea because I'm seeing what's attached to it, and I like what's attached to it. I'm going to wash this one off a little bit too. It never ceases to amaze me how resilient roots can be. You know, when in the hands of experts, which I'm not claiming to be. See, that hurts. That hurts. But to quote Nigel Saunders, every repot is an opportunity to improve your root base. And when you're getting started with a tree, what better time than now? Okay. I just want to reduce those lumps down here a little bit more. And even, I'm trying not to cut the roots that I want to save. All right, I think I've got what could be two nice root bases. Wash this off a little more. Let's see what I've got in terms of a pot now. Actually, that's putting the cart before the horse. Let's prune these branches down. All right, I want cuttings. So where's my first tree? This is the one that has some nice movement in this direction. So I want to plant it shallow and leaning that way, and then have it straighten up as it goes up. So that's a good front. This branch, I want to be careful here because some of these branches have subdivided already, and they may end up being nice someday on their own. So I think this low one has to come off. Let me make sure I have the camera adjusted right so you can see all this. Yeah, I think so. I have to lift pretty high to get out of the frame, and I don't want to do that. If I did, I apologize. All right, here's a branch that I can shorten. And here's a branch that's kind of, you know, this one. This one's a little redundant. I'm going to take this one. Yeah, I'm going to take that one off. And that's my first tree. Right there. We'll see what develops. Okay. My second tree. Well, my clone of that tree. It still has a little sweep to it. I'm just going to take the lower branches off. These two will be cuttings, some of them. And this big one. This will be planted as a cutting. These will be planted as cuttings. After they dry out, I'll try and fit them in the same pot that the main trees are in. Cutting, cutting. The rest of this is just, okay, so I got that tree. I've got this tree pruned up. I've got the cuttings. Oh, I don't have the top of this tree pruned up. And take these two lower branches off. To be truthful, I probably damaged them while I was swinging them around. And this is definitely my main tree. I'm going to cut it here. It's a little bit bigger than that one. Like I said, I'm not trying to get anywhere with these trees just yet. I just want to get them established in a pot. Anything that can be a cutting, I want to make available for being a cutting. Because I really want this to be a forest in the end. In one pot, little plastic oval pot that I have, and get them growing as a group. Not sure how long I need to wait before I put the cuttings in the pot. Just let these dry out. All right, this big one. This is going to be nice. I'm going to get a lot of cuttings from this. All right. Don't have to be greedy. I've got a lot here. So these cuttings will be drying out. I'm not going to do a video of putting the cuttings in until they're ready to plant, and I'll make that a separate video. sometime over the winter, hopefully. And I do have some compost at the end of this too, which is good. All right, let's get these planted. All right, let me get a base layer of soil in the pot. I'm doing this very slowly because I'm not wearing a mask. A little bit more. No, virtually no dust. All right, now let me get this moistened. And since this is going to be my main tree, let me get it positioned kind of where I want it, a little lower than where I actually want it, because I'll be lifting it up as I place it. I'm trying to get the roots as radial as I can. Some of them that are cranked around, I'm forcing into position and burying them where I can. That's basically where I want it. Let me get a little bit more soil on it. I'm getting down to the end of my available soil, so someday pretty soon I have to mix up a batch, hopefully before it gets too cold, because I do it outdoors. I'm not going to do it in the greenhouse. Let me pile that soil up and lift up on the tree while I'm working the soil in and around the roots. And pulling up on the tree makes the roots go down into the soil. That is what will give you your nice root base. That and careful care with every repot. That's quite good. All right, let me place the next tree. Now, I probably want the next tree over here, just a little further back. It's a little bit shorter and it has a tilt to it. I don't want to knock this down. That's kind of how I want it. The roots are radial and heading down into the soil. I'm going to push it a little bit forward while I'm doing this. Have to pile it up a little bit deeper there. And the rest of the room in this pot will be for some, if not all, of those cuttings. Not this one. So let me fill up the back part of this pot. I'll get some rocks around this. The rocks will be temporary just to support the trees until they get established. Yeah, I think these trees will give me some nice root flare. And that's these two trees, which I'm going to develop the branching as the years go by. These will be the two main trees in this planting. Well, let me get this watered and then get some stones around it. Okay, now the soil is more ready to accept more of a dousing. All right, here I go. And I'm not sure how long before I water this again, but it might be a while because I want those cuts to dry out, but I don't want it to dry out before it nourishes the tree with what little roots I've left behind. All right, let me get some stones on that. These are just some decorative stones I have. Just for some support. It has a little notch in it, which I find handy for this type of arrangement. You're trying to coax a tree into a certain position. That ought to do it. All right, the start of a little forest, maybe. We'll see. Well, it feels really good to finally have gotten those jades pruned up and ready to bring in the house. I think the pruning that I did on them will result in branches in much better locations, at least I hope so. And those Portulacaria afra nursery plants, finally to get them out of their nursery pots and into bonsai soil feels really good. So that's it for today. Thank you for keeping me company in my backyard.